Facebook. My name is Andrea Ormsby, and I help moms get clear on what their next steps should be so that they can mother from a place of strength and courage instead of from a place of fear that I watch too many moms do too often. And it's not where we really want to be as moms for our children, and it certainly does not help our children as we are training them into becoming adults. So today I am giving support to my twin moms out there. Hey, twin moms. I'm a twin mom too. For those of you who are not familiar with me, I am a twin mom. I'm also a mom of a singleton child. I have a 9-year-old and twin 7-year-olds, and they are all boys, and we have complete fun all the time. And yes, it can be tough, and yes, there are a lot of questions. And specifically, that's why I like to support my twin moms, because I remember when I was starting out and I didn't have access to very many twin moms who could support me and help guide me. Even the ones that I did meet had older twins, and it was almost as if they forgot what it was to have small twins. And so therefore, when they gave me advice, it was more of looking on into the future, which I essentially couldn't see because I had these little people running around and I didn't know my way out. And so that is why I really want to encourage you twin moms, especially those who either you might be still baking them babies in the oven, or maybe you just had your twins, but I really want to encourage you because I know how scared you must feel, because I remember being there, and I know how frustrating it can be when you're around a lot of singleton moms, even moms that have multiple children, and they still look at you like you're on some pedestal because you've just had 2 or more babies at the same time. And yes, it is an honor, and yes, it is a blessing. And as I've said many times before, to whom much is given, much is also required. And I don't sugarcoat that, because of the fact that it really is a lot that is required in being a twin mom or a mom of multiples. But it does not change the fact that you can still do it, and I do want to encourage you in this. Now, today I am specifically talking about the subject of separating your twins or keeping them together. And this is specifically one of those questions that singleton parents just don't have to deal with. And so, as from one twin mom expert, I would like to say I'm doing this successfully. They're still alive. It counts. And from one twin mom expert to you, twin mom, I really want to support you as you try to figure out what is the best option for you as you raise your twins. So specifically, if you are still baking those babies in the oven, maybe you're trying to figure out, do I keep them in the same bed or do I not? And I know for so much research that I did, because I did read a lot of books, and maybe that's you. Maybe you're reading tons and tons of books, or maybe you're just too tired to read anything and you just need a quick and dirty answer. Well, for me, I did keep my twins in the same bed at first. When they first arrived, they were so small. I remember them holding them like this. If you saw my previous scope last week on Periscope, or my last video last week, you would have seen that I also talked about breastfeeding twins, because yes, I successfully breastfed my twins for their first full year of life. They did not taste formula. They went straight to cow's milk. After that, yes, we do give them cow's milk, and it works fine in our family. But at the same time, some parents struggle with the idea of, do we have 2 separate cribs? Do we not? If we do keep them in the same crib, when do we separate them? And I do want to encourage you to consider that putting them together really does help these babies. And specifically, not just because they've been incubating in the stomach so close to each other for so many months, but I did see such a beautiful bond, even at such a young age, a few weeks or even a few months, with my babies when they were sleeping in the bed. They literally slept better when they were in the same bed, in the same crib together. Now, there did obviously come a time where they got too big, or maybe it wasn't convenient, and it might look different for you. Maybe they're rolling over onto each other, and maybe they are just not fitting in that crib. In my case, I had a little side bed that I actually kept them there because it made it easier for me to kind of roll over and feed them when they woke up. But whatever the situation, sleeping arrangement is for you, maybe you're one of those co-sleeping families, and that's completely fine. Or maybe you have another type of sleeping arrangement that works best for your family. The point still remains that keeping them together in that beginning period for whatever period that is comfortable for your family, or maybe you do it for a longer period of time. Whatever is comfortable for your family, it is okay. There is no hard and fast rule, but I do want to encourage you to consider doing that for some period of time at least, because I did definitely see a difference in how my babies slept when they slept together. Again, there's a lot of research, a lot of psychological analysis and theories out there as to why this is good, and there are other points of views that suggest otherwise. I personally chose to go with sleeping them together, and this is what I experienced in terms of how they slept. Even when they ate at different times, because I did feed them on demand, so when they woke up, then I would feed them as opposed to waking them up at certain times. I still found that they slept much more peaceful when they were sleeping together. And so as they get older, another question that you will have to deal with that singleton parents never have to wonder about is the idea of keeping them even together in the same classroom or not. Now, some schools allow you as the parent to decide whether you want your twins to be in the same classroom or not. And in our case, we were blessed to have that type of schooling environment that did give us the choice and still gives us the choice each year to keep our twins together in the same class or not. And in our case, I took the approach, as I often do. Many of you who have followed me, you know that I recently released my first book, Twin Mom Method, Being Honest with Your Children. And in that approach, the same way that I approach all my children, I like to include them in decisions so that they too can not only feel like they have a say in that decision, but also I can understand how they are thinking and how they are seeing the world, and that I can incorporate that as I'm making my decision for them, and my husband can also incorporate that as he's making decisions for our family. And so I did ask my twins specifically if they wanted to be in the same classroom. And when they were in preschool, they were in the same classroom. And a lot of events and activities that we participated with them, really for the sake that it was easier for me as a mom, and maybe you completely understand this if you have elementary age children, when you have twins, it's hard to separate. Even if the only children you have are twins, it's still hard to be at two different places at the same time. Even singleton parents, you know what I'm talking about. Going this place and then that place. And in our house, I have a rule that one activity per child, literally one activity per child. Doesn't matter how athletic or amazing you are academically, one activity per child. Otherwise, life just gets crazy, and it ends up that us as a family do not get to spend very much time with each other. And so in this case, there were a lot of activities, including preschool, that my twins had actually shared their experience together, even though they were very different and they're very independent, very different children I have. I will introduce you to them one day. But it didn't change the fact that I still had them in the same type of activities. They did the gymnastics, they've done the swimming, they've done, various activities. And when they got into school, regular school, I did ask them, do they want to be in the same classroom? And I asked them separately at separate times. They didn't know, one or the other didn't know I was asking one or the other the question. But it was very interesting to me to hear their response and to hear what they wanted to hear. Hey, Kathy on Facebook. And so in incorporating them with that question, I was able to hear how they felt about it, and both separately wanted to be in the same classroom, which was very interesting to me. And so as they got older and in higher grades, I kept asking them every single year, separately, separate times, the same question. Do they want to be in the same class with each other? And they kept saying yes. So then it did get to a point where I wanted to test the idea of them being in separate classes. Now, you have to understand, there wasn't anything outside of the environment that made me feel like they needed to be separate. I actually am very involved in their school, and what was very interesting for me is even at lunch times, while they were in the same classroom, they would sit at different lunch tables and have different friends. So I explain this to you to help you understand I was not concerned about them being too much alike or leaning too much on the other or anything like that. They very much interacting with their teachers also explained that they were very individual, and they definitely interacted individually as children, even though they were twins. And so I was not concerned about them losing their own identity just because they were with their twin. If you're a twin mom, if you have older children, even with the younger ones, you start to notice that one kind of has a more dominant personality, as people call it. But in my case, both of them had their own personality, still have their own personality, and are very strong in it in their own way. But I came to the idea or the decision with my husband to separate them in their class because I really started to notice their strengths differently. And again, we have been very intentional as parents in raising each of our boys, all three of them, in having a their own personality and really trying to focus on who they are and how God created them and trying to encourage them in their strengths, as well as helping them to learn in the areas that they're not as strong so that they can learn how to adapt in this world accordingly. So with that approach, I noticed that my twins had different strengths, and I wanted to see, especially because of the different teachers that were in the next grades, how they would deal with being in different classrooms. Specifically, in our particular school, there's only 2 teachers per grade, and it was very interesting for me to have to look at the fact that for one teacher in their teaching style, I actually felt that one of my twins would do better or adjust better to that teaching style more than the other twin. And at the same time, the other teacher's teaching style I felt would be more fitting for that other twin. And so that's what really started to have me thinking and considering, I wonder what it would be like if they were to be separate. And just as every year, I still ask them, do you want to be in the same classroom or not? And as with every year, they both agreed that they wanted to be in the same class. However, it was interesting that one of my twins did say he wanted to be in the same class as his brother, but considered, well, maybe next year he would be in a separate class. And I specifically questioned, was there any problem or any concern? And he said, no, I just wanted to try it. So again, that also kind of fed into my mindset of thinking, I wonder if this is a good time to try something different. Even though they might not have requested it, they weren't completely against the idea. I was not fearful for their academic development. Academically, they were off the charts. That was never an issue for me. But it was more of a social perspective that I was really trying to see how they would develop or how they would grow more into themselves if they were separate. And what's been very interesting for me to observe is during this school year, it has really been amazing to see how they have grown more into their own personality because they are not in the same classroom. They are forced to, I don't even know how to explain it, as much as just really become more of their own. And so even though they were in the same classroom, they had separate friends. Being in different classrooms, they still kind of leaned on each other. And so being in separate classrooms now, even though they have similar teachers because they switch from one class to another, and even though they have the same homework, it's still very interesting to see when they come home how they do their homework differently, or they'll talk about how they had this class and this one has a different class on a different day and what special they have. And again, same classrooms, just different times that they have them and with different classmates at that time. So it's very interesting to see how they're now interacting with each other at a different level because I've introduced a different way for them to do school or to be in their environment, separating them slightly, but not completely removing them from each other. And so I share my experience with you, Mom, because I want to encourage you as a twin mom, as you are thinking and raising your twins or as they're baking in the oven. I'm sure some of these ideas are coming into your mind as it did for me. And if you didn't have someone to talk through with this, I just wanted to give you some ideas as to how to kind of look and approach this idea. And for one thing, I really want to encourage you, talk with your babies about this. Talk with your children about whether they want to be in the same class or not. And just involve them in that process. Talking with them, I know for me, definitely helped me to feel more confident that I was making that right choice for them and the correct choice for them. And the same way I encourage it would be for you, that if you talk with them about what might be coming, and even if it's something that's against what they want, explaining to them where you are coming from and being honest with them, as I explain in my book, it really helps them to really know that mommy and daddy are just not telling them to do something and they have no choice, but that they do feel involved in that decision and that they understand where you're coming from that decision. And even if there are problems or difficulties because you're allowed to make that decision, then perhaps you can make a change for the next year. As in my case, I have that option to change and bring them back into the same classroom if we really want to as parents. And if you're in the type of school scenario where you don't have that choice, I still encourage you to talk about that with them and talk about maybe some of the differences that they'll experience and maybe some of the challenges or even some of the concerns that they may have. And that just helps everyone, including yourself, mom, to really deal with some of those questions and concerns and thoughts that really plague your mind and just weigh down on you and make you feel like, oh my gosh, am I making the right decision? And just burden you until then you realize, oh, it wasn't that big of a deal. And so I really, really definitely encourage you, mom, to talk with your children about these decisions and really involve them in your decision-making process. I also want to encourage you, mom, that even if you make the wrong decision, as people might say, I put that in quotes because you really can't make the wrong decision. You're not going to ruin your children. It is an experience, as everything that they're going to have in life is going to be an experience, and they're going to learn from it. And I definitely encourage you, mom, to help them learn how to get through even the rough experiences. Because I find too often, I'm actually going to be scoping really, really strong, tough topic tomorrow. I really want to encourage you, if you're on Facebook and not already following my fan page, definitely click on my page so you can follow me and know when I'm on live. And for those of you who are on Periscope, make sure you click on those buttons so that you can get notifications on when I am on live again, because tomorrow my scope is going to be off the chain. It is a really hot topic that I know lots and lots of moms, parents, but definitely moms. I find that in a lot of the clients that I talk with. And it's really a difficult fine line kind of issue that I really think we need to talk about more often so that we can really understand where we're coming from. But specifically, as I'm talking today, splitting them is not going to ruin your children. They're going to have an experience, good or bad. And going through that experience with them will help them learn for future how to get through difficult or not so difficult situations. But the point is for them to get through it. What better time for them to experience those situations than being in that safety net and that covering and that with you here at home and in that safe place that they can talk about it with you and that you can talk about it and share with them and essentially really show them that you care and you support them no matter what is going on in their lives. That is so crucial. And again, I speak about that in my book, Twin Mom Method, Being Honest with Your Children, because I really strongly believe every family really needs to know how important it is to have these open and honest conversations with their children. They are learning so much, and we don't realize as parents how quickly they learn and how much they're absorbing. And a lot of times we think, oh, well, they're just going to learn it from this class or they're going to hear it from this song, but maybe when they get older. If you have the experiences that I've had with my children, and to know, as I shared in my book, how early they come up with some of those questions and some of those discussions. And a lot of times it's really just them coming up with it. All the more reason why we need to have these open conversations with them right from the get-go, as early as you can start, which essentially I gauge off of the questions that they bring up. So encourage this kind of conversation with them so it helps them to think for themselves and helps you to understand how they are processing their world as they see it. Because children just see black and white until it starts getting color. And you as a parent can help them gain color to their world by helping them to understand it. But you cannot help provide that understanding for them if you are not opening those communication channels and having those open conversations with them. So again, do not fear ruining your children or stunting their growth because you've split or kept your twins together. You're not going to ruin them. What I do want to encourage you, though, is to really consider, is your decision to separate or to keep them together based out of fear? And this is definitely why I do what I do in trying to encourage you, mom. We don't want to mother out of fear, because when we do that out of fear, one, we're not living in our God-given strength. God does not give us a spirit of fear. It is the lie of the devil that he wants us to parent out of fear, because we do not need to have fear as we approach our children. God loves our children even more than we do, mom, and he is not going to purposely lead us astray. But we need to also be open to him and open to his guidance, so that we can know without a shadow of a doubt that no matter what decision we make, that God is going to protect our children, because he loves them just as much as he loves us. And so that parenting out of fear is just not where we need to be. And it is not a strong place for us to be. And it certainly does not help us to teach our children how to not live lives of fear. Because if that is your goal, then you need to set an example for them to not parent out of fear. So the last point I want to also make a mention to you, and it kind of ties in with what we've just been talking about, is to really focus on what is your goal. In our house, I'm very intentional with everything that I do with my children, every moment that I spend with them. And yes, we're busy. If your house is anything like mine, it is busy. So I am not belittling the idea that we have a lot on our plates and that we have a lot that we do day in and day out. It does not change the fact that I know that I intentionally want to invest in my children. And because that means that much to me, I need to intentionally set aside time to do so with my children. Undivided. Not sitting there with my little phone tapping away or watching a TV show. I'm not saying it's bad to watch shows with your children. There are definitely time for everything. But in my case, I intentionally want to make sure whatever I'm doing with my children is intentional, and that they understand I'm doing this because of my love for them, and that I am supporting them, and I'm providing opportunities for them to come and talk to me, as well as to just be themselves, and for me to get to know them, as well as for them to get to know me. I would pity the idea that my children would grow up and just think, oh, mom was always in the kitchen and all she did was work. I don't want my children to only have that kind of memory of their mom. I want my children to think of their mom as a fun mom, and as the mom that just played with them and just did crazy things with them, or whatever it is for you. Maybe you're that mom who wants to show your kids, how focused you can be, but at the same time, how you have that fun side to you, and you can just let your hair loose if you're wearing the weave or the braids or whatever, that they know what that looks like, so they're not surprised when they get older and they marry somebody and it comes off, just things like that. Hey, Jessie, good to see you on Facebook. So it's those kind of things that I want my children to really get to know me and get to see me and get to understand who I am, just as much as I want to do the same for them. I want to get to know them. I want them to see, or I want to get to know them, and I want to get to know who they really are, what they really like. And having multiple children, yes, that can be difficult. That means sometimes I have to take one-on-one time with them, as I intentionally do. My goal is to do that at least once a month, and I'm pretty good with that. I certainly get it in at least once a quarter, but usually at minimum every other month I'm meeting with my boys one-on-one by themselves, so they can just be mommy. They don't have to have that sibling rivalry thing. If you have boys and multiple boys, everything's a competition. Yes, in my house, everything is a competition. Well, when they're just with mommy, there is no need for a competition. And so it's really beautiful for me to see my one son with me and see how he interacts, see how he's a gentleman to me, teaching him how to be a gentleman. Remember that, Mom? Yes, those are the opportunities that I have with them. And I encourage you to make those opportunities with your babies, because it is so important in raising them from babies into adults. So key. Just as much as you value that time with your spouse or your significant other, you want that one-on-one time so that they can focus on you and love on you, and you do the same for them. It's just the same way for your little ones. And so I really encourage you to really focus on what your goal is, and to really think about making those plans and taking those steps to do that with your children. And so I hope that really encourages you, what I spoke about today. And if you missed it, replay viewers, I'm so glad to see you. Facebook, I'm so glad to see you. because we all know of moms who need to hear this information, who really need to receive this message and really just own it and then make steps to do something about it. And if you are that mom who really wants to develop this kind of relationship with your parent, with your children, and you have twins and you're really just frustrated or burdened over how to approach this twin thing. Maybe they're still growing in your stomach. You're like, oh my goodness, you're so beyond where I am right now, Adrienne. I don't know how to approach this. I can help you. I remember how frustrating it was and how much of a burden it was on my shoulders, specifically because I just didn't know how to figure it out. And I didn't have someone to lean on, to trust, who could be truthful with me and just really help me. Just focus on me. Everybody's focusing on the babies and on the children. Christmas is around the corner. If your house is like how mine usually, there's piles and piles of gifts just growing. None of them are for me or my husband. They're all for the kids. So everybody else is always focusing on the kids, including you, Mom. But who is focusing on you? Who is focusing on what you need and where you need to be and strengthening you so that you can be a strong mom and parent and mother your children from that strong place, instead of being that fearful mom who doesn't know what to do next and who's just kind of going with the breeze and wherever it blows and hoping that it'll blow in the right direction. That is such a chaotic and fearful place to be. And I know what that feels like, but I really want to encourage you, Mom, you don't have to live there. And I know that's not where you want to live. Think of how different your life would be if you were to release that burden, if you were to relieve yourself from carrying all that all the time. I really want to encourage you, if you are that mom and you need that help, and you know that you need that help, and you're ready to get that help, then I encourage you to sign up through form. bit.ly/twin mom form will allow you to fill out an application so that we can set up a strategy session and we can literally just discuss some of the things that I've talked about today that might be really plaguing your heart. Hi, Miguel. Hey, cuz. How you doing on Facebook? And just really help you get clear on what that next step should be so that you don't have to be weighing it down and carrying it around and just really just walking around with your head all glossed over because all of these ideas are in your head and all of these thoughts are in your head and you've read so many books and read so much on internet and you just don't know where to go. I really want to help you, Mom, because I know if you were to help get that clarity, if you were to help get that support, that love, to know that you could just be vulnerable with another mom who understands and who gets you and won't judge you or think terribly of you because you shared that thought or that you even thought that thought. Whatever it is that you need, Mom, I would love to be there to help you as another twin mom, from one twin mom to another. And for those of you who are not even twin moms, because I'm sure that we all know moms, singleton moms or moms of multiples, who would really benefit from having support. We don't always get that support, as I already explained. All the kids get all that focus and all that support and all the financials, all of that stuff. But we moms don't always get that. And so I really encourage you that if you're that type of mom who needs that support, I'm going to type here in Facebook that you can click on another link that is just for you. And for those of you on Periscope, I'm going to share it. It is bit.ly/Courage Coach form. Thank you for joining on Periscope. And bit.ly/Courage Coach form. bit.ly/Courage Coach form. If you click on that link, if you're a singleton mom and you just want that kind of support for yourself, or you know of another mom, all of us know moms we care about that need to hear this message, especially as twin moms that don't have as many options to talk about what it is to have multiple children at one time. Share this scope with them. If you're on Periscope, you can share it on Facebook, on Twitter, whatever option is easiest for you. For those of you who are on Facebook, you can share this video with whoever you know needs to receive this information. And just care for another mom by sharing this with them. I do have coaching services that I would love to offer for any mom who is ready to do something for their 2018. 2018 is around the corner. And we have all these plans and ideas that we're doing for our children, for our families, for our spouses or significant others. But what are you planning for yourself? What are you getting yourself for Christmas? What are you getting yourself for 2018? Every year I hear people talking about their New Year's resolutions. What is your decision that you're making for yourself to do something better, to get yourself to that next level so that you can mother strong, that you're not mothering fear anymore? What are you going to do about that? Well, I want to encourage you to take the next step and do something for yourself. Buy yourself a Christmas gift this year. And a lot of times we think of being selfish by doing something for ourselves as mom. But as I always encourage my clients, when you do something to build yourself, you are able to open yourself and allow yourself to mother, as well as be a friend, as well as be a sister or an auntie or whatever it is, so much stronger. You're able to pour more of yourself into those that you love because you took that time to do something for yourself. That's such a different place for you to be. And I really encourage you to really consider what that would look like for you and how different your life could be, how much more joy you could have as a mom, and how you could just reduce that frustration that you feel day in and day out, wondering, is this how life is as a mom? Is that all you're going to have to set up and just put up with and settle for the rest of your life? I'm telling you, you don't have to do that. I am a mom of a 9-year-old and twin 7-year-olds, and I don't settle. I certainly don't. I cannot settle. And I'm telling you, you do not have to settle. If you want more for yourself, mom, so that you can do more and just enjoy your life more and just, it's a cycle. It just grows, that you enjoy life more, you grow more, you're able to pour out more, and then you enjoy life even more, you grow even more, and you pour out even more, and it just continues to grow exponentially. And that's such a different place to be that I encourage you to aim for, and I really encourage you to go for 2018.